Welcome everybody to the next special of the Binding Coil of Bahamut. This is actually the very reason I started Let's Playing this game. But as you can see, I have a ton of information in the description that would be very useful. There's going to be a lot of cuts and editing and whatnot here because this is extremely long. Now, this actually picks up right at the end of 2.0. Like Crystal Tower, I had intended on posting it in release order with the patches, but due to various other mishaps, I eventually, partway through it, decided to actually put it together, all together and out of continuity. Frankly, it makes more sense this way, but I didn't know it about the time. So this is going to be talking about, I'm going to be talking over a lot of the text boxes in one here because I know what exactly is being said and whatnot. But yeah, basically, this picks up right where after 2.0 left off with the end of the Praetorium and the little party doohickey celebration. Yay, the Empire will plague us no longer, and all that other crap. And we hear an interesting roar of a primal, and here you're gonna see a teleport over, because we have someone who is enlisting our aid, as Uriandra just said. And look who it is. We haven't seen her in ages. Now, a lot of people who actually didn't do this side story, because this is the raid, meaning it's actually pretty difficult content gameplay-wise, a lot of people actually wondered what the hell actually happened to her. Well, this is what happened to her. She's been quite the busy bee, and yes, she is the lead character for this little side story here. And as we'll eventually see, she's quite the badass. I love her to death. But yeah, she's been busy doing research and whatnot. How long she's been doing this research, I honestly cannot say. I don't think it was ever said, because the last we saw her, she had an argument with her brother, and she literally just freaking stormed off. And even Minfilia had commented that she hadn't seen her for a while, but she does kind of hang out in the Waking Sands, because, as we'll see later, she just pretty much avoids everybody else. So yeah, she's been researching etheric signatures and whatnot from primals and all that good stuff. Yeah, she is pretty nerdy. Probably more nerdy than her brother, or at least from what we've seen. They're both equally a bunch of stuck-up genius nerds, but yes, as you can recall from way at the beginning of the game, the beginning of the 7th Umbral era, where Bahamut emerged from the prison Dalamud and nearly wiped the floor with us, and then a lot of people died, terraforming the land, nuclear winter in Kurthis, and all that stuff, but obviously one of the big people, her grandfather Louis Swat, was never found. His staff was. One of these side stories actually explains the finding of the staff there, and it's, I may have mentioned it before, it's hanging on the wall in the Waking Sands. Well, and eventually the Rising Stones, obviously, when they moved. So, yeah, so she's, sensed a very similar signature from that little primal roar we heard at the end of, at our little party after the Praetorium and whatnot. I'm fast-forwarding this part, obviously, because, we actually haven't been to here. This is one of the castrums, obviously, of the Empire. And there's something down here she wants to check out, but obviously she needs to secure a path through here. And securing a path basically means go to this gate, interact with it, and everything's all hunky-dory. Not really sure how that works in reality, but gameplay story segregation, I can forgive it on some front here. I love that guy. He's like, oh shit, she's already at the door. Well, screw that. Not even gonna bother anymore. So hooray, more teleports and whatnot, because again, this is very long. So this is one of the assistants who's been working with her. She'll have a different one every time because, well, they have other obligations and stuff to do that. They're completely unimportant otherwise, so you don't really need to worry about them whatsoever. Ooh, secret passages, huh? Yeah. So basically, because this is the raid, it actually wasn't initially in Duty Finder. All the raids, when they're current, you actually have to go in with a preformed party of 8 people, and there are lockouts, and it does keep track of all your shortcuts and whatnot, and once you actually breach that shortcut, everybody in your party gets pulled to that shortcut, so you can actually unintentionally lock people out of turns and whatnot. But obviously, yeah, I cut to my raid group here. There was one member who's no longer a part of our raid group here, and one of them is actually who eventually joined was a substitute. But they're being total bros and carrying me all through this. I have cleared all this content that you're going to be seeing on my bard, which is my main character. Obviously, I am a bard main. But since Nameless Protagonist here is an alt, they're carrying me through this. Now, I have done some of these turns as a scholar, not all of them, and not everybody is even on their main job here, so those of you who are actually familiar with this content and this story and whatnot will probably notice a bit of derping here and there. We're not really that bad. Like right now, for example, one of our black mages is actually a scholar, and obviously she can't be a scholar because, well, I'm the freaking scholar right now, and this is literally the only class at 50 I have right now. So yeah, unlike every other NPC who we've gone on like adventures with, she is actually the first to actually come down into the depths with us. It's not like, oh, you need to go in here and take care of this crap. No, she is going to be right here with us the whole step of the way, even though not every cutscene is going to actually reflect that, but she is there. So yeah, now she's staring in awe of like all these corrupted crystals and whatnot that have been created by the Calamity. There's a bunch elsewhere. There's a huge one in NOSCEA. I don't know if we can see it from the overworld where we just were. I'm not sure if we could. Might have been at a bad angle. I would have pointed it out had I thought of it at the time, but since this is all post-commentary going up here before the day before it's uploaded, even though this content, it was recorded 6 months previous to that. There's also a ton of these corrupted crystals in the Burning Wall in Eastern Thailand. They're like everywhere, these fragments. So yeah, I love everyone's glamours that they're wearing for this. Some of them aren't even the same races anymore. It's just really hilarious going back and looking at this. You're gonna hear some random sound effects. Obviously that one was my macro ready check for this. So yeah, our first encounter over here is a mini-boss, who is not really that difficult anymore, whose mechanics we are going to skip 100% entirely, because at the time of when this was released, you went in here with like level 70 gear, and we're like 120, 130 gear in here. It's crazy, but those of you familiar with Final Fantasy IV will notice that the ADS actually remembers the CPU from the Giant of Babel over there. Obviously that is, you know, this whole game is an entire like fandom wank of Final Fantasy references, and obviously here's one over here. Now at the beginning it will give a message about like 4 clicks and whatnot. You basically have 4 minutes to defeat this boss, otherwise he gets really pissy. But since we extremely overgear it, we don't have to worry about that anymore. We just nuke the crap out of it. We will be seeing more of those later in the next turn. But more cutscenes! There is a dickload of cutscenes in this whole series, and part 1 of 4 actually doesn't have as many as the rest of it, so yeah. So yeah, these are what's left of the wings of Bahamut. And as you can see, the angle we're showing it doesn't really do it justice, but he is absolutely freaking massive. Even if you hadn't gathered that from obviously, you know, one of the links in the video we saw, like the very beginning of the game, you know, introducing the story about blah blah blah, Calamity, la 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 la, all that other crap. But yeah, that was not for show how large he was. He really is that big. But yeah, Bahamut disappeared on that day 5 years ago, and we never knew what became of him, so it is quite curious that his wings are crystallized. Oh. Hi? Okay. Well, that was weird. But yeah, but it is quite the mystery, because remember, he's a primal, so they don't really have a, you know, a true corporeal form. But again, nobody actually knew what the hell happened on that day. Like, you know, just like landing late and Bahamut was gone and everybody was saved, and yeah, long-term effects, nuclear winter and all that stuff still, but, you know, he didn't actually, you know, mega flare us to freaking death. You know, we would have been dragon toast for frick's sake, and we ended up not. So here we're actually gonna, I unsummoned my fairy for a reason. We were actually sack pulling right here, and basically one of our tanks, our lovely static leader, is gonna pull all this crap and suicide on purpose. And I need to basically unsummon Celine because her auto healing, there is no way to shut it off. When somebody's below 80% HP and they're in her range, she will heal them no matter what you do. You cannot stop it. So I have to basically make sure by unsummoning her that she doesn't get the opportunity to do that by not being here. But because without anybody touching these or anybody healing this tank, all the aggro tables are on him entirely. Yeah, and you've taken that many mobs isn't normal. He is going to die, and you're going to see it. Because this is actually our first checkpoint right here, these dark matter golems, which used to be slightly difficult. They've got some moves that hit pretty damn hard, but he's not going to get even a single one off. As you can see, our tank is just about to die there. But yeah, this Obliterate did a lot of damage and whatnot, but it creates a shortcut for us! Yay! But since the mobs didn't really aggro anybody else, they just reset to their original positions, but we're all ahead of that, so we don't have to deal with them at all. And you can either raise the tank right then and there, or they can just shortcut and they end up literally right here with us. As you can see, is he right there? Nope, he's on his way. He's right there. I know, this like 6-month-old content I'm staring at over here. And I'm like, where is he? Where is he? But yeah, now we're going to do the same thing again. It's just faster than killing these individually. That's what people used to do before we discovered, it was discovered that you could actually do this. Because, I mean, the only real penalty for dying and resetting is, you know, a gear repair bill, you know, and there's no, besides your 90-minute timer to complete this, and you certainly do not need 90 minutes to complete this. Back when it was new, you probably did, because you would probably die a lot on the boss, but, and hooray! Mapping achievement, you're going to be seeing that a lot too. I figured I'd shut up for 5 seconds and let you guys see that. But this is our first boss, Caduceus. What the hell Caduceus is doing here, I have no idea. For those familiar with the name Caduceus, you might know what's going on here. But if you're not familiar, Caduceus, even if you're not familiar with the name, you have seen him before. You know that little medical symbol with the twins, you know, the cross with like the twin snakes? That is Caduceus. So if you know about that, then you know exactly what is going to happen here. Obviously how you handle it, you wouldn't have a clue, but if you knew that, you might actually have an idea of what is going to go on here. We are going to completely and 100% ignore that, simply because we way outgear this fight. This is one of the more interesting arenas. I think we're waiting for somebody or something. Obviously, this is all post-commentary, but we're actually talking to each other, like, on TeamSpeak and whatnot, during this. So that's why you'll see various pauses. But yeah, this is one of the very few arenas that's not in a circle. And actually has different elevations. When it was new, it could be a slight pain in the butt, but not really. The reason they can't often do arenas like this is because it might put certain classes at a disadvantage, and they don't want to do that and make one class more viable than another in certain things, because as much as this game does have some class balance issues at times, there you can see the double snakes there. It does a pretty well job of making every group type viable for this. So basically what you're supposed to do, the snakes are actually going to re-merge, and you'll see glowy platforms. What you're supposed to do is they're actually supposed to pull these snakes apart and tank them separately. They have a little buff on them. You can't see it because it's not, I have the tank targeted and not the actual snakes, but they have actually a stacking buff that appears that makes them more powerful over time. And when these two snakes are merged, they actually gain a crap load of these stacks all at once. And actually, the key to this fight is managing those stacks because, I mean, now we overgeared it, but this thing hit a lot harder back in the day and whatnot. And the point of the glowy platforms is you would spawn adds and you would literally feed them to the snakes to actually remove some of those stacks and keep them manageable. And if you actually defeated one snake before the other, you know, the remaining one would get stacks very quickly. So you had to kill them at the same time. But again, since we way overgear this, we don't even have to bother with separating the snakes. We just take it at the full 8 stacks the whole time and just burn the crap out of it. But yeah, it was quite the challenging fight back in the day. I actually only cleared it like twice before I was in my first static group. Because it was not easy. Like you had to split up your DPS, you had to constantly be watching near the snake's HP, your healers would run out of mana from healing the tanks and whatnot. Like it was actually pretty intense back then. But the first turn is done, and through the portal we now come to the second one. Now Alisaie will actually not be joining us until the 5th and final turn of this part. But again, because she is still here, you'll see in some of the titles there, that we are descending deeper and deeper into the cavern each time. And obviously in universe this is all happening at once, even though due to the nature of the raid, you're constantly coming in and out of here and making slow progress over time, but technically story-wise this happens all at once. Now, turn 2 here is one of the more interesting turns, and I really wish they would make more like this, instead of just most of them. Some of them are just bosses, but most of them are like random trash, go to the boss. Random trash, go to the boss. Which gets kind of old at times. I mean, at least if you die at the boss, you don't have to clear the trash again because it's, you know, shortcut and whatnot. This turn is unique in several ways. One of which is the trash here actually has importance. And that you actually have a choose-your-own-adventure sort of thing going on here. We're nuking the crap out of these things, so you're going to see a lot of that, and you're going to, there's actually going to be a pause toward the end of it while my party discusses things, which I left in the original editing because I didn't know how long it was going to take for me to describe what is going on here. So I've awkwardly stopped talking at the end. You know why. This is actually like the 3rd time I've tried to record this commentary because of feline issues. I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, basically what is going on here is these little nodes, each one of them, is pretty much a carbon copy of that first ADS we had. They have shared 2 of the same 3 moves, and that other move, that final move, is actually exclusive to each node. In addition, you have 12 minutes to complete this turn. On top of that, the monitoring node will always keep you in combat, so there are certain things that you cannot do. For example, you cannot switch any equipment or cross classes or anything like that. You are literally stuck once you start with everything you have. No equipment swapping, no cross-class swapping, no absolute nothing. But on the plus side, your limit break gauge, because you're persistently in battle, will constantly be rising because it rises over not only via actions and canceling stuff, but also over time on its own. So your limit break is going to be much faster than normal for being, you know, idle and whatnot. But there's actually 7 sectors in this place. The final boss, also named the ADS, is in the 7th and final sector. You need to actually finish 3 of these other sectors in order to even get to the boss. I think that was the 3rd. Yes. Okay. And this is where my party's going to pause for a little bit, because we're discussing stuff going on here. But basically, for every one of those nodes, there's 6 of them in total, plus the 7th at the boss. Each one comes with a very specific attack and a very specific buff. The boss, the ADS itself, starts with all of these attacks, but none of their buffs. And for each node you defeat, you remove that move from the boss's rotation, but in exchange, he gets that specific buff. And depending on your party's composition, being, you know, are you more physical based, are you more magical based, or whatnot, would determine the path you take, because like one of the buffs, for instance, one of them is an attack up buff, and one of them is like a piercing resist buff, like one of them's like a magic resist buff, and whatnot. So basically you kind of, you know, choose your own adventure that way, and determine either which ability you want to remove from the boss, or which buff you want to give him. Usually people do it based on the buffs. Now while we're sitting here, and why we are numbered, we will actually not see the mechanic in action. I really wish I kept a previous take where I know what happened, where we literally died to it. It was freaking hilarious. But one of the nodes, the quarantine node, which we did not encounter, is the nastiest node of them all. It has the ability Elegant Rot and the buff Haste. Now, obviously because of how the nature of this turn works, it's basically every buff and every ability you will encounter at least once, either at the node that carries them or at the boss itself. You have no choice in this matter. It's either, you know, all six, you know, whatever and whatnot. Well, at least the abilities. The buffs are basically what you actually give them, so you can decide which buffs not to give them, like haste, for instance. But you wouldn't even want to get them haste anyway, because yeah, no matter what you do, you're gonna have to deal with Elegant Rot. And basically, it's playing a game of hot potato. You're on a strict time limit, and if you let this timer run out without first passing it to another person, you will blow up, and everybody will blow up, and you all will die. But as soon as you pass it, you gain immunity to the debuff for a short period of time. So basically, you have to play hot potato with 4 or 5 people constantly throughout this whole encounter, otherwise you blow up and die. And due to the nature of this place, even though it does have door locks and whatnot, you wipe once, you start all over from the beginning. But it can be cheesed. It can be cheesed, and honestly, I admit in my original static we did this. There's Elegant Rot going off now. We will not see anyone actually explode from it, even though we did have a run where it did happen, and it was freaking hilarious. We somehow still survived, but I made him redo it because I'm like, we can't let this stand. But basically, since you have 12 minutes to beat this whole turn. At the 12-minute mark, the boss actually starts going berserk and starts casting Object 199, obviously from Final Fantasy IV again, over and over and over and over and over again. Now, thankfully, it doesn't do that much damage. Like, it's not like a one-hit kill or anything, but it does cast it repeatedly, and the intention is you will not last long. But it overrides his entire other script, so he will not use any of the other moves. Like, I just got past Rot there, but I'm not going to have a chance to actually move it, because he's dead. But yeah, by sitting around and literally just waiting until the 12 minutes pass, you can literally override his script and just massively take 3 healers and just massively overheal through his AoEs. And basically it's just a matter of having the DPS to kill him before your healers run out of mana. So you usually had 1, sometimes even 2 bards to ballad to help with that and whatnot. I accidentally opened the chat box here because I'm checking what people rolled, because my screen is too blurry right now in Vegas, so I can't read the chat box myself. You probably can. But I think I rolled like a 95 or something on something, and I'm like, how did I lose? So I was opening the chat box to see. So yeah, so there used to be a lot of debate back in the day whether cheesing it was a viable strategy or not. Obviously the devs didn't care. They wasn't intended to clear the turn that way, but yeah, I just completely lost my train of thought there. But yeah, people would be debating, oh, you didn't do this like the real way and whatnot. But in the end, actually doing the enrage method, as they called it, was the slower but safer method, because if you die to Elegant Rot, because the way you have to start all over, it takes longer than actually waiting the initial 12 minutes. So unless you were 100% confident in your rot passing abilities, it was just better to cheese it with enrage. Now turn 3 over here, the most boring and paradoxically fun turn, is literally has you jumping through hoops. Quite literally. This turn has nothing but trash. There is no boss and whatever. It's basically you getting from one zone to the other, which is why they never add another one of these at all. So basically this is kind of one giant maze with platforms and these jumping platforms. You're going to see more of these later too, and you need to find the right path to the exit. Well, what's the right path to the exit? Somebody actually just stepped on that and sent me in the wrong direction. The right path is the one that takes you jumping through the hoops, quite literally. Now, as you can see, because I went backwards there, these platforms actually have several arrows, and which way the arrow is facing is the way you jump. And by standing on certain parts of the platform, you pretty much change the direction of the arrows. Now you're going to see these mobs go everywhere, and they hurt and hit a lot, which is why you see some of us as tanks. People actually used to always challenge themselves as basically who can get to the end or who can get to the end without dying, and being a tank actually increases your chances of survival in here, because you don't actually need to kill anything. You're supposed to, but because this turn is so freaking useless, people just run to the end. There are shortcuts, although I don't know when or where they appear. Like, yeah, these things will, like, jump off the platforms. They'll actually, like, float in midair to get to whoever has aggro. It's actually pretty funny. You will die in midair from accidentally walking into an AoE and never seeing it. Oh, it's just... It's one of those turns that can be equally frustrating, but at the same time you will probably laugh your ass off. Like, there's a golem right there. I die at one point, probably coming up soon. A bunch of people die at some point too. Yeah, there we go, see? A bunch of people die to obliterate there. So as you can see on the right there, part of my duty list is covering it. You have to occasionally activate these terminals that these golems are guarding to be able to progress. And there we go, I just died in midair. Awesome. But yeah, basically you just restart and keep going. just keep going until somebody gets to the end. Yeah, you certainly sure as hell don't need the whole 90 minutes to get to this place, and if you ever did, you are absolutely pathetic, but since that is the default timer for everything, that's just how it goes. So I am like semi-racing here. I'm not trying to be first or anything like that, but I am trying to get to the end as quickly as I can, but I was protecting everyone just to be a bro. I was trying to walk around those guys because I wasn't sure if I was going to piss them off or not. Hooray! It's one of the few mapping achievements that everyone has, because now that the turns are in Duty Finder, you actually don't have to do this turn, and a lot of people don't. But obviously we're doing it for completion's sake, because it's kind of stupid for me to skip from turn 2 to turn 4. Even though obviously this turn has nothing of substance in it, there is no story, no boss, no nothing. It is entirely freaking useless, and thankfully the devs smartened up and realized, yeah, this is kind of freaking absolutely pointless. Now I wait here because I'm not sure if I'm going to pull these. Since they're lettered, obviously I'm not going to. They've already aggroed somebody else first, but basically I'm just waiting for someone else to be the guinea pig. And someone actually made it to the end already. Now, once one person makes it to the end, you can all just automatically all leave, and it does count as completion for everybody. But I get to the end just for completion's sake because, as you see, a lot of them are leaving. Number one, because I'm recording, and number two, I'm a stickler like that. We're almost at the end. You can actually see the little pillar right there, right behind this golem, which is I'm gonna piss off. And I'm like, give myself a quick shield. And I actually do make it through without getting killed, surprisingly. Now, I actually missed a cutscene here. It actually got corrupted. This is the beginning of turn 4, actually. Not sure how that happened. By the time I noticed it, it was just, I couldn't find the original file anymore, and I was way too deep in editing to fix it. It was only about 5 seconds long or so, maybe. But yes, we're gonna activate an elevator. It's gonna take us even deeper. Yeah, we're almost a mile below, or a malm. It's pretty much the same damn thing, but yeah, we're pretty deeper now. Now, the interesting thing about this turn is this next turn is not actual a boss encounter. It is well, pretty much just a boss like Zergrush in here, where your goal, as you can see, is my one objective is to slay all the enemies. That is literally your objective here. And it may seem easy, and we're going to make it look easy, but this time is actually pretty damn difficult in a wall for a lot of people, my own static included, to people for a very long time. This is actually probably the first real heal, DPS, and tank check all in one. These enemies hit hard. You're actually on a rage timer of 8 minutes too. These enemies hit hard, so the tanks take a lot of damage, and so the healers do. This AoE, so the group takes damage. And because of how this works, the DPS need to step on par. I believe the range timer is 8 minutes, in which case the floor starts pulsing until you either win or you die. But basically, these little waves here, there's 6 of them in total, actually appear at predetermined intervals or when you defeat the previous wave, whichever happens first. So if you do not have the DPS here, you will actually find yourself very quickly overwhelmed. And one of the reasons why is because of these dreadnoughts and these bugs. As you can see, the dreadnought literally just ate the bugs, but in exchange, he gets a buff for it. They will also heal him if he eats them, but since they can't overheal if they're already at full health, it does nothing to them. So it is a wise idea, even if they're buffed, to feed them right away. Because you don't want it to feed when it's at low percent. That is shitty. And as you see, there's more bugs, so if you don't have that dreadnought down by the time this wave drops, you will start to get in real trouble. You can save yourself if it's almost dead and your other tank is on the ball and can pull them away. But yeah, and the same thing here. If this dreadnought drops when those bugs are still up, you might be in trouble. And these dreadnoughts hit hard, but again, we're way over geared, so we make this easy. These soldiers and knights actually have a buff on them that prevents one prevents magic damage and one prevents physical damage. Now it works like a stone skin, so you can basically just attack it, and it will fall off on it. You'll do 0 damage for a couple turns, but it will fall off on its own. Beforehand, you could not do that. So meaning your party composition had to be up to par, and you had to have 2 magic and 2 melee users, so both of them had to be up to speed as well. It was just craziness here. But thankfully everything drops at a predetermined spot, so you can easily pick things up. These spinner rooks are really annoying too, because they have an ability called Pox, which basically, if you get hit by it, makes your current HP your maximum HP. So if you've taken damage, yes, suddenly your HP is going to really suck, and you do not want to get the tanks hit by that. But again, we're making this turn look a lot easier than it really is. We're beating the crap out of it, not only because of gear, but because experience of knowing what to kill and what order. When I was doing this turn, back when it was current content, we got stuck in this turn a lot. And you would most often die between the 5th and 6th phases, because you would actually be handling 2 dreadnoughts at once. But again, we make that look incredibly easy. So yeah, I remember that being quite the challenge and quite the wall, and it would be so frustrating to get nearly to the end, and then usually the tank would drop just from taking too much damage. That would be the #1 thing, or the healers would start to run out of mana, and then your bard would have to sing Ballad. And I think I'm checking the rolls again here, and thus your bard's DPS might not be up to par because of the damage drop because of that, which would throw a dent in it. But and I actually go to the wrong exit here. I go to the one to back out of the start of the duty, and I actually turn around and go to the real one because I'm just a stickler like that, because I want to activate the terminal because continuity. So this is actually going to take us to the fifth and final turn of this segment. As you can see, coming down the Ragnarok drive cylinder here. To the central core! Yeah, we just traveled even further underground. It's probably hot as hell down here. So there is actually no trash in this turn. It is a straight up boss fight. Yeah, I forgot we had Echo too. That really helps, you know, with the overgearing and whatnot. And as you can see, now she is back. Obviously, since we're way deep underground, yes, that does mean she's been following us the whole time, but, yeah. But yeah, we're like a mile underground. Look how huge this cavern is. And yes, it is indeed a hand. And you will actually see when the camera pans out how tiny we are compared to this thing. And this is his hand. His hand. Okay? If you've seen him up close, you will know he has tiny T-Rex hands. Okay? Like really, really tiny, like baby hands. He is absolutely freaking massive. But she's like, nope, research must go on. Now, upon seeing, even though, you know, we know the kind of damage Bahamut caused, like, seeing him up close like this, frozen in time or whatever, or not, if I saw a dragon's hand that big and knowing he was once flesh and blood at one time, I would probably shit my pants a couple times over. I would be absolutely terrified by this knowledge. Terrified! Like, this is creepy. It's like, oh my god! It's like the people who were there and nearly died and were saved at the last second by a force they don't even know. Oh my, like, I would be reliving nightmares for years because of this. Now, as you can see there, awkward cut, our tank actually disconnected, due to internet issues right in the middle of a run, so we wiped and had to reset, so I would say I had to cut that part out. And we're just waiting for him to show back up again. This turn was another wall. I actually did not personally clear it until it came, the next raid came out, and this came after, out of the weekly lockout, so you could basically try it as many times, you know, as you wanted, and without having to complete the previous turns. But yes, you will not be able to probably see it in the background there. I'm not sure how good the quality is, because again, I'm, playing this in the background live, but at a slightly smaller screen, so my quality is crap, but yours is not going to be. But this is Twintanya. First big boss. Yes, Twintanya is a wyvern here, and not this weird bull-looking monster and whatever. So yeah, very, very different incarnation, but what can I say? I got no complaints about it. There was no real lore about the original Twintanya, so whatever. And now we're spamming macros in the chat that you can't see, making fun of each other and whatnot. Someone doing the Mandaril over there. I think our other healer like ran up to the top waiting. And I think we're waiting for them to come back down. Do do. No, I'm not gonna sing. There we go. Just prepping our cures here before we pull, because you gotta have your shields on and whatnot. I'm not sure why I haven't focus targeted the boss yet. I'll probably do that in a second. Again, some of these longer wait times I left around because I wasn't sure how long it was going to take me to explain things when I got there. So there we go. For what reason, I'm not sure, but that debuff on Twintanya is actually a slow debuff. Why she, and I'm just calling it a she because that's the name sounds feminine. Whether Twintanya itself is male or female, that we don't know. I'm just going to call her she. But why she has it, I have absolutely no idea. It has no effect on her abilities whatsoever, and it was actually there the whole time. This isn't a result of nerf. But even if they did nerf it, they just could have nerfed the AI script, so I have no idea why this is on her. These Scourge of Mericidius here are essentially just quick trash mobs. They're very easily dealt with. Why they're part of this turn, I have no idea, other than to drop the name NOSCEA possibly. But, whatever. So, but they spit these fireballs and stuff at you. Now, you might not be able to see it because of the angle, but Twintanya here has actually 3 little rings. She's got one on her neck, one on her right ankle, and one on her tail. The one on her tail actually just fell off and left this nice little funky looking puddle on the ground. This will be important later. And yes, by the way, the wall is on fire, and it will kill you if you walk into it. This is going to be a staple of the final turns in each of these in the coils here, that the walls kill you. So we're actually strategically placing Twintanya, obviously due to the mechanics of this fight and whatnot. This conflag and fireball crap was actually pretty complicated to figure out. Basically, your conflags, they will blow up if you're in them too long, and it actually stuns the person inside so they can't do anything. If you step inside of it yourself, you can't do anything either. But you are immune to all damage while you're in there. Fireballs will actually decrease the amount of time you have to destroy the next conflag, the more people who get hit by it. But the fireballs actually do a set amount of damage, so you have to get a certain number of people hit by it, so they don't die, but not too many and whatnot. And you would often run one into the conflag because it nullifies the damage from it and whatnot and everything. And but remember that joke way back in the day I made about Garuda dive bombing? Because obviously she is an avian-based primal. Yeah, that was a joke referring to this. The dev team loves their freaking dive bombs, and that mechanic can easily get you killed if you don't know how to handle it properly. We're actually cheesing it by sitting in this pit. It's kind of an unintended exploit, but the devs kept it in because, hey, why not, you know? There's something, well, we didn't think of it, but technically they're not cheating, so we're not going to remove it, so that kind of arose that way. So, another snake you might have seen in other symbols as a single snake on certain medical symbols here is Asclepius. Who's pretty much no real different from any other Cobra, except that he has a dickload of HP. Now again, because we have Echo and overgearing and know what we're doing, he is actually going to die far earlier than he normally would. And yes, we're getting dive bombed while we're doing this. I know you saw her briefly in the air here. While she's doing that. Yep. I'm sorry I can't get a good angle actually seeing her dive bomb in action, but it's very difficult to actually do so without screwing me up. But basically these Hygeias will actually explode when they die, and they give a stacking debuff that increases the amount of damage you take. We actually took it previously. You're supposed to aim these at Asclepius to basically increase the amount of damage you do and kill it that way. But again, because overgearing, we can just nuke it the fast way. Now we're running around here because we're actually waiting for the timer on this fight. Certain phases of this fight, actually this whole snake phase is actually on a strict timer. How long that timer is, I have no idea. I honestly don't remember. This whole fight is on a rage timer, 13 minutes by the way. But basically we're just waiting for Twintanya to come back down into her ultimate move. But since the snakes are dead, there's nothing we can do until the arbitrary timer says. And as you actually see her, before we had the dive bombs, the link on her ankle broke off. These are actually neurolinks, and they will nullify part of that attack etheric fusion there. They also have another use later. The final one will actually break off, the one on her neck will actually break off shortly here. But yeah, these dreadnoughts are bad news bears. They stun someone and go toward them, and if they hit them, they will smack them so hard they instantly die. This whole fight is full of instant death mechanics. Not even just the wall. These twisters here, that you see people pooping out, you touch those, you die. You get hit by the dreadnought, you die. You run into the wall, you die. Like, regardless of your HP or anything, there's just so many damn instant death attacks. And these little black eggs you see flying around, yeah, you get hit by those and you're not in the links on the floor, you die. It's just absolutely full of this. So this turn was very challenging back in the day, especially considering how long it is. Like, we're nuking the crap out of this. But can you imagine having to go through 12, 13 minutes of this every time? It was actually crazy there. Now, the Dragoon died because the intention is our tank is standing in the link on purpose, so the little black eggs actually land on him and detonate in the link immediately. But he's actually slightly off-center here, so they're actually not spawning on top of him as they were intended, so that's why they're going around killing everybody. But since she's almost dead, we have this, and we're just basically pushing through. The intention is you let it follow you until you stand in the link and let it detonate you there, but we just cheese it by having the tank do the whole thing. So we just killed ourselves a dragon. And now she will become a mount we have. Eventually. Yes, I do have that mount. But we have defeated a dragon on top of Bahamut's right hand, but what else? Like, okay, we've seen his wings, we've seen his hands, but we still haven't actually really learned anything other than the fact that this stuff is down here. Because you see me walking and getting stuck because I'm clipping into something. How huge this cavern is. And this is over a mile underground here. Like, can you imagine? Like, I know caverns like this and whatnot exist in real life, but this is like full of Alagon technology and stuff back here. So once we actually defeat turn 5 for the very first time, we actually end up here instead of being immediately kicked out by the duty finder. It's an eerie red place with this silent terminal. Well, is there a reason that the terminal would be talking to us normally? I don't know. Like you see, after leaving us to do all the hard work, she's going to join us again. Push the red button! Or use telekinesis. That'll work too, I guess. Whatever gets the job done. Yeah, there was actually 3 of them. But I suppose the one on the neck is probably the most important. Yeah, we're never gonna tell them that. And nothing will ever come of that, by the way. But what she's referring to here, as the Garleans knew, would be the Battle of Silvertear Falls 15 years ago, where Midgard's Homer presumably perished, blowing up their flagship, the Agrius, which you can still see the ruins of in Mordona. What? Something? We just heard something. So, what just happened? Oh, apparently we started up a rave. Okay, anybody get the glow sticks? Glow sticks, anybody? No? No? Alright. Alright. We didn't think to bring any. Too bad. What the hell is going on? What? What do you see? Ah, fuck me sideways. That is some really creepy shit. No, seriously, if I hadn't already evacuated my bowels several times over from walking on his hand, I think this would do it. Now, why she is shocked that the primal that has awoken was Bahamut is kind of awkward to me, because it was her matching up the signatures that had her come down here in the first place, because she knew this was connected to the Calamity. And not only that, but the obviously the in-game title of this is, you know, the binding coil of Bahamut. You know, we just saw his wing, we saw his crystallized wings, we walked on his hand. Why is this a shock? But I think the intention is that the shock is that, as you can see, he might very well be alive. That it's not just, you know, I think the intention is not that we're seeing his remains or that he's down here, but that he is apparently regenerating. That does not bode good at all. So we see a glimpse of Grandpa again, but this time she actually sees him. Why she just doesn't jump down, I don't know. But if we can get a good pan of the rest of it, you'll notice it is quite a large drop, and that may be more obvious to her than it is on the screen, so it may not be worth it to do that. But we never find out actually what he says. And if you look carefully, I believe, nope. No other shot there? Okay. You will actually notice he's not alone. But you will not find out anything about that other figure until later. And actually, a lot of people didn't even know it was there until a rewatching. But yeah, but we just see Bahamut's head and her grandfather, and then we're like, yeah, screw this, we can't do anything more, let's go to the surface. Which kind of sucks, because that is, well, as we'll find out, was her primary motivation for coming down here in the first place. But as we leave, we're going to find ourselves in a completely different spot. This is not Western NOSCEA. This is Northern Thanalan. But how did we get here? I mean, we know we traveled deeper into the cavern, and we walked forwards a little bit, but how the hell did we end up all the way over here? So, well, we know Louis Sly is not dead, which makes her obviously extremely happy. But yeah, but Bahamut's also down there as well. So, what the hell is going on here? Oh, you are welcome. Thanks for coming down there and being a bro with us. You know, it gets kind of lonely doing all these dungeons by ourselves and everything. So, yeah, it's gonna sit around, and it's actually gonna cut pretty quickly here, because obviously I'm saying good night to my static and whatever before I turn to the Waking Sands and actually finish this quest. And you're actually gonna see another awkward cut here because there's actually 2 quests that end this first part, and I didn't do the second one until the next week went to do the next part of the story. So I had to splice that back in. As you can see, yeah, now my static is gone, and we've said goodnight for the night and whatnot. Most of those other quests are off with like the extreme primals and whatnot. So don't worry about those; they're not part of this. You are welcome. She is technically a member of the Scions of the Seventh Dawn, you know. Yes, let us talk to her about the stuff we saw together in there. I suppose we can do with a recap. Yeah, we went in there, we saw a lot of technology, I killed a bunch of dragons, and yeah. Well, that would make sense, because that is where it all started. So, duh, of course it would be Bahamut. But yeah, damn those freaking aether currents. They're so strange. Like, can you imagine if something like that existed in real life? That you'd like walk down, you walk into a teleporter like at the end of the street, like intending to go into a store, and then you open like the post office like 5 states over. Like, that would screw with your mind so bad. Like, yeah, who cares if this, aether draining massive primal is still possibly alive? Grandpa's not dead! Yay! Well, I saw him. Yeah, I saw him too. more like he had a chance to speak. It was more like you yelled at him and he just kept on walking. Given how big that cavern is, it's possible he never even freaking heard you. I mean, he did appear to say something, but heaven knows who the hell it was. You know, it could have been something like, huh, is that a bunch of people I see up there? Nah, I must be hallucinating it. You don't know. So yeah, just talk about how you're gonna snub your brother for God knows how long. But yeah, we're keeping everything we've seen here quite a bit mum. We don't want to cause a panic or anything like that. But yeah, you're going to see a pretty abrupt ending here very shortly. She's going to walk off and then we're just going to talk to her in 30 seconds anyway. Actually, nope, that was the end of the cutoff there. Apparently, I cut that off earlier. But yeah, I know that's a rather abrupt ending because it actually leads right into the next part there, as you will see when it's posted and whatnot. But yeah, we don't actually learn much about this story this time, but we will in the future. This is just barely the beginning here. As you said, it raised more questions than answers. We will get some of those answers, and we will learn a lot more about what the hell has been going on here. But you're going to have to wait next time, where I'll actually spend a little bit more time explaining the actual story and character development and whatnot, because that's a big part of why I played this, instead of the boss mechanics. As you can see, the first part here, story-wise, there's really not much going on until the very end. Again, that will get better, and the story will get a heck of a lot more epic, so bear with me, and I will see you then.